This
Robotics.
conference will
Dr.
now be recorded.
Kumar has published over 450 research articles, has supervised 20 PhDs and more than 30 MTech theses. He has 12 patents to his name. He received 3 academic awards, 12 Best Paper Awards, 6 Best Thesis Award, 4 Professional Awards, and 25 Student Awards. He has received a Career Award for Young Teachers in 2002 from Government of India. He is on 12 general editorial boards. He is an associate editor of IEEE Access, IEEE Industrial Electronics Technology News, associate editor of Swarm and Evolutionary Computation elsewhere, associate editor IET Renewable and Power Generation, associate editor IET Power Electronics, associate editor of International Journal of Bio-Inspired Computing, and Deputy Editor-in-Chief CAAI Transactions on Intelligence Technology (IET). Dr. Kumar is a senior member IEEE USA, Fellow IET UK, Fellow IE India, Fellow IETE, Life Member CSI, Senior Member IEANG, and Life Member ISTE. Now I would like to invite Dr. Rajesh Kumar so that he can continue his presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Prof, for introducing me, and I hope I'm audible to everyone. Please confirm, am I audible to
Yes, sir.
everyone?
Yes, sir. You are very clearly audible,
And
sir.
and the PPT is also
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
visible.
PPT is visible. You are
Okay,
not
okay,
visible, sir.
yeah. So
So if you
that's
can share
because
your
if I go myself on online, then it will make the things a bit no, slow. So that is the only reason.
fine, sir. Fine.
At
No
the end,
issues. In
we
between,
can
sir,
have
for
a,
a few. Sir, in between for few minutes, you can just turn on your camera because this video lecture is recorded and it will be shared with the funding and agency, that's AKTU actually. So for
okay.
that
No, not an
purpose,
issue.
just turn on your
That time
for
I'll
few
make it on.
minutes and
Yeah.
then you can close it. Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. You may continue, sir.
Okay. So okay. Yeah, okay. So good afternoon to everyone, and this session we discuss some issues with power system related mainly to modern power system, and we talk about the solutions with the materialistic algorithms, so how you can address those things. So the contents in this session are, you can say, multifold. In one on one side we'll discuss various issues, that what are the various automation problems related to the modern grids, and then we'll talk about various algorithms which are there, how they are being developed, and if time permits, we discuss their uh, processing, and then how you can use it for their purpose. So that's the content for today's discussion. So to start with, I've taken some pic which talk about something which is very one can say popular nowadays. We are looking to make our grid smart. So smart grid means everything is expected like this on my computer, basically, as a consumer, if I'm saying that. So if I'm consumer, then I need to see everything on my laptop or my phone or devices like that. And what I want to see on that one is basically home energy management, how the energy at my home is managed, load management. Okay, so how the load is managed, storage management, because uh, a lot of infrastructure is being developed, and a lot of uh, pushes towards use of renewable resources. So we know that they are intermittent in nature, so we need storage to store the energy, and then how that storage is being used, and then electric vehicle management, and uh, this is related to power or energy management, and then how this management being done and transferred on your computers or other things. There we use the bottom lines, you can see there, we use SCADA, EMS, CIMS, and all these things. So and that all makes a smart grid, basically. So you can summarize in a sense like a smart grid is a combination of your uh, already built structures with the communication background and which is intelligently controlled. So we look many things, many environments are integrated, and that makes our grid as a smart grid. Okay, so when we have smart grid, that means whatever the challenges which are already there of a conventional power system, they are there. In addition to that, things are being changed because we are adding communication into the system, and some more recent technologies make it intelligent and all those things. And because of that, our challenges becomes multifold. And one of that aspect, that is optimization, will target today, and then how to solve those things there. So let's talk about the various issues where optimization in particular can be implemented. So if I take as one sector of it, that is a pure power system. So these are the various research areas where people are using optimization as a part, and keep on using it because uh, with time, and they keep on modifying their models, more making it more realistic in nature, and the dynamics of the system also changes, the requirement also changes. So the areas are like reactive power and voltage control, economic dispatch. Now, earlier the dispatch was done in a different way when we talk about the conventional power system. Okay, but now we are moving towards a smart grid. We expect that the information flow is very fast. We expect the dispatch should be very fast. uh, Long back, the renewables are not that much into the system. Now that they are there in distribution as well, in transmission and everywhere, they electric vehicles are coming. So the dynamics keep on changing, and hence economic dispatch problem keep on changing. It become more complex as compared to the earlier structures there. Then power system reliability and security, it's again an optimization problem. You can talk about generation expansion problem. So how you expand your generation. Then state estimation. So I know new few states of my system, and then I need to estimate the next state. So how good is my estimation model? So that is again an optimization problem, because what we do is we make the models in such a way that we have realistic data. So I know that this one is the real value, and then I estimate it, that is my predicted value. So I know what is the gap between real and predicted value, that is the error. And then the job is how to minimize that error, so it is minimum is there. So it's again optimization problem. Load flow, optimal power flow, power system identification and control, like controlling the controller tuning. So tuning of your PID controllers, like if you search it, you'll find more than thousand of articles only on the tuning of PI controller by using various approaches. So it's optimization problem, because here also we need to look forward to increase the performance of the system. Then system identification and intelligent control. So these are the various areas which are still targeted by various researchers as an optimization problem. So they are using certain kind of optimization algorithm to address these issues there. Continue with the power system, like electrical machinery. So we have machines, and then we are look for uh, maximizing the efficiency, minimizing the area, increasing the compactness, reducing the vibration. So all these are optimization issues. Capacitor placement is another problem, like you're putting a capacitor to improve the system efficiency or system for response. So it's a placement problem, which is again an optimization problem. Similarly, we have facts placement. We have fact devices, and we need to place it. And then again, very obviously, there is some kind of objective associated with it, whether you're looking for minimization of the losses or increasing the stability, and likewise. And then phasor measurement unit placement, PMUs. We know that PMUs are costly, so the object is what should be the minimum number of PMUs in a system. And then we have another kind of issue there, that okay, one objective is to reduce the number of PMUs so that my investment is less, but at the same time we need the whole system is controllable and observable. So this one is again an optimization kind of a problem. Then generator maintenance scheduling. So most of scheduling problems are optimization. So that is again optimization problem. And now these things added there because of managing the power demand and all that. That is like long-term, medium-term, short-term load forecasting. So when you say forecasting, that means what you do is you try to develop a model where you have all some data are given to you with known outputs. So you try to fit those data using some kind of model, try to generate or estimate certain output there, and based upon that output, and you have a known output, you try to compare those two outputs. If there is any difference, so then you try to minimize that difference by varying certain parameters. So that's again optimization problem there. System design is another problem. Then integration of all generations and storage, including PV, it's again a optimization problem. So these are the various problems which are being used by the scholars to address using optimization as a target. There is another component of our grid system, that is power electronics. And then when we talk about the power electronics, so the main part is the design of the converters, whether it's DC to DC or DC to AC or AC to DC. So what is there? We look for reducing the volume of it, reducing the heat sink, reducing the electromagnetic interferences, improving the efficiency, improving the converter response. So all these are optimization problem, because these are objective functions. I'll talk about what is objective function and all these things, but these are the certain challenges which we try to address when we talk about optimization in power electronics. Then power quality issues we target towards the cost, we target towards the filter design. We want it is as small as possible and a good filter so that all harmonics and those issues can be addressed. Then drive design, estimation of the controllers, estimators design, tuning of the parameters. So these are the various issues in power electronics there. And now, since we are talking about a smart grid, and I told you the like smart grid communication is an mm, important area which is to be connected with it. So these are the various issues which are to be addressed, and we can formulate a optimization problem for them, like wireless sensor node lifetime, because we have wireless sensor and which is always powered by the energy. And if it is powered by energy, then uh, there's a battery which is connected there, and the battery is a limited capacity. So how to handle that scenario, that so that the battery can be used in the most appropriate way. Then you can have sensor node deployment, how to deploy the sensor in a particular region, wireless sensor traffic management, server allocation, mobile network, topology selection and design, signals routing and protocols, uh, packet sizing, and when they are sent and received, so how you can make energy efficient packet sizing, and how then you can manage the traffic inside that particular network. So these are all our optimization problems. You can solve all these problems as an optimization problem, and they are the problems in the communication and are also related to our smart grids there. When you talk about the smart grid, we basically collect a lot of data. If you want to make anything intelligent, so you need to collect the data and then you can make the things intelligent. So these are the various issues when we talk about the data management. You have a lot of data. So how you design your server, how you design your data warehouses, what are the data mining approaches you're working on, and how you manage your metadata. So these are all optimization problems in data management as such. And this one is now picking in a very fast way, that is you're connecting your EVs there. So when you're talking about the EV as such, it's again a full scope for optimization, like design of converter for EV. And then in EV we don't like only one battery, we have small battery packs. So how to manage those battery packs, that is known as battery management system. It's again optimization problem. Power management, vehicle management, optimal plug in and plug out strategies, parking lot management, and then PHEV communication like vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to grid, and grid to vehicle, and all these things are there. So these are there in when you talk about electric vehicles, and now these smart grids, they are governed a lot by the economy. So these are the power business when we talk about. These are the various areas when we talk about power business, like utility workforce optimization, workforce demographic changes, equipment collaboration, outsourcing and contracting optimization, tariffs, pricing, market management. So when you talk about all these things, or you see all these things, you'll find that uh, if you want to address it like tariff, so what is the optimal tariff? What is the optimal pricing so that some objectives are achieved? So that is basically optimization problem, and you can address these problems by using or developing optimization problem and then solving it by using any kind of algorithm there. So if you if you go through this 10 these 10 15 slides, you find that everywhere we are trying to address the issues, and again we are repeating that we can address it by solving an optimization problem. What is that? So if there is a problem, can I convert into, or can I develop it as an optimization problem? So let's understand that concept. And it's a very simple concept that you can do solve any problem, and if you want to make it an optimization problem, so then it is convert this one is in a way that you need to maximize or minimize certain function or certain objective. So that is known as objective function. And if you want to address that objective function by maximization or minimization, you need to vary certain variables. Okay, and your variables are not like most of time in the real world, they are always bounded by the things. So they have certain constraints, like if you're designing a filter for some quality factor, and then you can have some value like R as a negative, which give the most appropriate value, but R resistance as a negative value is not practically possible. So that is basically we do so, or how to avoid such type of solutions or situations. We put the constraints on the things so that we work near to the realistic world, uh, realistic solutions. So these are the components there. You can see on your screen there. We have objective function, which is again like what you want to do, whether you want to maximize or you want to minimize it. Some of the examples are there here on your screen. Something like manufacturing process, we want to maximize the profit or minimize the cost. In Or you are working with a machine learning problem, or your data, you are looking for to develop a model from the data. So you use curve fitting techniques or something like that. Then we are interested in minimizing the total deviations. If you are designing a machine, then we look for maximize the efficiency or minimize the cost. So all these things are, they are known as objective functions. And to reach or to attain that objective function, we have a set of variables or unknowns which we vary. So like in manufacturing problem, we have different resources and then how to use them. In calculating, what are the parameters which we can vary so that our estimated value and the real value, they are close to each other. In design problem, our variables are the geometry and like this, and they are constraints, they have certain boundaries over each other, like this. Okay, so you have minimize x1 minus 2 square plus x2 minus 1 square. So this one is objective function subject to, now these are the constraints basically, subject to that your x1 square minus x2 square has to be less than equal to 0, or x1 plus x2 has to be less than 2, or x1 has should be more than this or less than this. So these are the constraints, whereas x1 and x2, these are known as your variables. Okay, so this is basically, so we till so far we covered few things. We have seen there are various areas in smart grid for a power person to solve as an optimization problem. The second one is what is the how the problem is formulated. So you need to find out what you want to maximize or what you want to minimize, and then you need to put a constraints there, that okay, what are the limitations, and then what are the limitations on those variables. And now we have certain things, then the next thing is how to solve it. So when we talk about the how to solve it, the simplest way or the easiest way to solve any optimization problem we studied long back when we are in class 8, and that is basically, if you have any function, find out its derivative, make this derivative equal to 0, and the value where it is 0, it's a saddle point or stationary point, and that will be either maxima or minima. And once you know your maxima or minima, what you do, you go for the second derivative, then it confirms yes, it is maxima or minima. This is good. This works fine till when we were there until 12th class. Okay, but when we are engineering, things changes a bit. We are moving more towards a realistic kind of scenario. Let's see what happened there. So there is another approach which is known as a hill climbing approach. So let's talk on this one. Hill climbing is again a calculus based approach. So understand it like this: that okay, you are taken near to a hill and you are blindfolded. Okay, and see, but you need to reach at the top. You step the there, that okay, you are going up, and then you take another small step, then you feel that okay, you are okay, and then no, there is no change, and then you take small steps and you feel that now you are going down. You stay there and you'll say that this is the top. Okay, so this one is his client. This is, if you watch it carefully, indirectly, unknowingly, because you may not be, somebody may not be a like a mathematics friendly person, uh, but unknowingly he's what he's doing, he's finding the gradient at every step, and check whether the gradient is positive, keep on moving, and then the gradient becomes zero. He's then he takes a very small step, and if the gradient is becoming negative, he stops and he'll say that this is stop. So this one is nothing but again the calculus based approach. Gradient zero means slope zero. It works fine for such type of slopes where only there is one peak which is there on your screen. Okay, but what will happen if the it goes that way? Okay, what will happen like if my surface is like this, and now it is very challenging because if I start moving from the left side, uh, first at the first peak I say now this one is my peak, I stop there, and if I move from the right hand side, I stay at another point. So the problem is same, but I have two starting points. So and I reach to two different solutions because there are two peaks there. So there are two points where your slope is zero. So now it depends upon your starting point. If you know your starting point correctly, then it's okay. But in most of the problem, that is an issue. Like this. So now what is your starting point? So you don't know what is the starting point. So you want to reach to the minima, you stuck up. You start move from any direction. You stuck up somewhere which is known as your local minima or local maxima. And there is a global minima or global maxima. So if and most of our problems are like this. They are noisy in nature. So they have noise, then that means they have peaks there. And the second thing is they are discontinuous. We are using computers everywhere in our whole processing, and the computer works on discrete steps. It's a discontinuous. If you go to that particular level, or you have to assume few things to make it a continuous. So most of our engineering problems we have discontinuities there. But if you assume, if you take certain assumptions, you can make it continuous. You can find the solution, but then the solution may not be the best solution. So those are the things there which put or which describe the limitation on your on gradient based approach or derivative based approach. function, because we also know that uh, cal- derivative exists when there is a continuity, there is a continuous function. So if it is discontinuous, there is a problem. So what are the solutions to this one? Okay, so we talk about that. What are the solutions for such type of the problems? So another thing which is very important is when you talk about the optimization problem, there are lot of uh, classifications. Like it can be a single variable, only one variable. Your problem may be multi variables. The variables may be constrained. It may possible some of them are constrained, some of them are non-constrained. It may possible it is a single objective. It may have multi-objective. The problem may be a linear. It problem linear means your objective function and constraints all are linear. The problem may be non-linear, either or constraint and or objective function is non-linear. It may be NP, NP hard, and likewise. So that's the classification of these problems there. Okay, so you have two things there. There is some change in the symbols because of I prepared on a different platform and now I'm showing on a different platform. You can see here there are two things there. One is local minimum and there is a global minimum. Global optimizer, local optimizer. Local optimizer means there is my algorithm performs good in a very small range. Small range means there is only one minima in that particular range, and then it can find it out. So single minima kind of. But global means there are many minimas, and out of those minimas, there is one minima which is the best minima. So in whole space, which one is good? So the algorithms are there. Like if you talk about local minima, local optimizer, then gradient based method, Newton-Raphson, steepest descent, conjugate gradient, Leonberg-Marquardt algorithm. All these are derivative based approach. They are good if you are looking for a local solution. But they have already have issues which we have discussed. One, they need from where to start. They may trap into if there is some another local, they trap into that one. Okay, so and they are only good for very narrow range of the solutions. Whereas global means they can find out, they can search in whole of the space. So some of the examples for global are simulated annealing, genetic algorithm, ant colony, geometric programming, particle sampling. And you can see if you do the literature and the analysis, you'll find these algorithms are implemented in a big way in power system, power electronics, communications, and all these areas. From this figure, you can see what is a global way. So you can see here there is one minima which is best minima. So it's a global minima, but there are certain local minimas are also there. And most of time we are looking for global solutions there. So that's the difference here. So there are various techniques being used, like you can see on your screen. These are the various methods. Say if your problem is constraints, you can use Lagrangian multiplier, gradient projection, feasible direction method, genetic algorithm, cultural algorithm, direct search, ant colony, coevolution, linearized search, leapfrog method, or something like that. If your problem is multimodal, people have tested on evolutionary immunity based random search algorithm, simulated annealing, swarm based algorithm. If it is a multi-objective, then people have implemented these rest of the algorithms there. If you are dealing with the real-time, real-life design equipment, then you have different objective functions. Many times you need a reliability. So then you can see few algorithms are there. Most of the time you need a robust solution, and sometimes you are talking about my environment is uncertain. And then another is you look for designer confidence. So there are depending upon your problem, you can choose which algorithm is good and how it is good and how it is behaving there. So there are lot of such varied methods there. So today I'm going to discuss mainly on the nature inspired materialistic algorithms. So what is there actually, because when we talk about the problems and when we talk about consider the old kind of non-linearity into the system, uh, you'll find that our problem start from maybe linear, then it converted to non-linear, and then gone to and N type and then NP type and then NP complete or NP hard or something like that, or combinatorial problems. For that, your derivative based approaches are not good. For that, researchers suggest go for bio inspired or nature inspired algorithms. So the term is used is meta means beyond an upper level. Meta heuristic was initially proposed in 1986 as a high level algorithm framework, and it can be applied to solve optimization problems. So we develop certain kind of a strategy, okay, to find out the solutions. So they are more, almost all the algorithms have certain kind of a strategy, okay. So they are at certain state, they follow some certain strategy, they move to the next state. And by and large, like if you are interested, you just watch these algorithms, any optimization algorithm, it has three things there. First thing, how they start the algorithm, how the solution start, basically initial points. The second, they follow certain policy to move from point A to point B, okay. And the third one is how they converge or how they stop. So these are the three things, whether you are working on simplex method or linear methods, or you are working on uh, nonlinear methods, or you are working with meta heuristic. And these three things common everywhere. So here in nature inspired, the second part, the policy is inspired from the nature as such. We'll talk few of them here. So these are the few algorithms which are being used. Like 1975 genetic algorithm was proposed and by Holland, and the 1983 simulated annealing comes into picture. Then 1989 taboo search comes into the picture. 1990 ant colony optimization. There are many more, but I'm going to discuss. I'll touch on these one. And then 1995 particle swarm optimization comes there. 2001 is your harmony search by Professor Gein. In 12 we proposed intelligent tuned harmony search. 2003 artificial life comes in. 2007 firefly algorithm by Jean Singh. 2007 is intelligent water droplet. 2007 fish cowling. 10 bat algorithm. 2009 cuckoo search algorithm. 10 fireworks. 14 your grey wolf optimizer by Majli. 14 again by us directed beak algorithm. 16 we propose another one, AGS spider monkey. And then 17 again we propose a termites correlation, and then list is quite big. So I've just taken those which I'm going to discuss today. The list is quite big. You will find, if you talk about nature inspired or materialistic algorithms, like 400 as such, or more than 500 algorithm, and if you consider their variants, then the number goes above in thousands. So let's start with let's try to understand in the remaining time that how these algorithm they works there. Okay. So first one is your GA, and this one is inspired by the Darwin's theory of evolution. Okay, it was proposed in like 75 by Holland, and it has few operators. So you can see here, this is one is the relation. So one thing on the human in the nature appears like we are made up of chromosomes, so that is represent, that is a string, and then gene is represented as a character, and the locus is the string position. Genotype is the population. Phenotype is represented as a decoded structure. Reproduction is represented as a crossover, and survival for the fittest is the fitness function. So let's see how it works there. You, this slide is sufficient enough to explain it. So you need to find out a solution for a certain problem. Okay. So say my problem is say I want to optimize x1 square plus x1 square plus x2 square. Let's take it. So then and I want to say maximize or minimize it, whatever you want to do it. So how many variables are there? Two variables. Because one is x1 and another one is x2. So you just can assume that okay, what is the range of x1? Okay, and then you take any range of x2, and then say x1 varies from in the range of -10 to 10, x2 varies from 5 to -5. So you can represent that particular range in terms of binary numbers. and then you can put them together. So if you put them together, that make a string there. The string means it's a representation of solution. So how GA works, initially we randomly we take assume some solutions, some values of x1 and x2, and those are represented, and those things you can see on your screen there. Sorry, so you can see here. Okay, so these are the values. So you can say first six numbers, they are one variable, and the rest five are another variable. So you can see 1 2 3 4 5, these are the five different values they are being taken. Okay, then the crossover is being done. Crossover means first two values they are taken as a one parent, and the second two as another parent, and likewise. And crossover means we swap few things out of them. Like in this case, you can see this part and this part. They are swapping. They are swapped. So all shaded part, this one here and this one here, they produce one children. And this from the mother and this from father, they produce another child. So meaning is from this solution we move to this solution. So I told you that there are three things in all the algorithm. First is how to start, so that in this case it is randomly generated. Second thing is the policy to move. So here the policy to move is it starts from here. Okay, so these are the solution we assumed, and we follow policy of crossover. We get the new positions here, and then we follow another policy, that is mutation, and it happens in our day in our life also. So mutation is some change somewhere, so something is changed here. How it is being done? We need to go for crossover probability and mutation probability and likewise. So now this one is basically after doing these changes, we will receive the children there. Okay, and then what we can have, we decode it. We have some sense solution of x1 and x2. We substitute those things into the objective function, and then you can find out the fitness function, which one is more fit. So if you are looking for maximization, so the solution, the string which is having the highest value is more fit, the string which is having lowest value is less fit, and this thing keep on repeating, this thing keep on going on till uh, now the third thing which is required, the stopping criteria. So you need to fix it, that okay, I'll uh, do this whole process 1,000 times and then stop. One way of doing it, okay, if all solutions are near to each other, I will stop. This is how the genetic algorithm works. So I'll talk more on the philosophy and the working of these algorithms. Rest as mathematical, we can discuss more on that. This one is GA, and then another part comes in, which is known as DE, basically. So D is basically it's a stochastic. So there are two terms which are being used in very common. One is deterministic, another one is stochastic. So deterministic means we know everything. Like in gradient method, I know from where I'm starting, that is known to me. And the next step where I will go, that is also known to me because I'm finding the gradient there. So I'll find the gradient, add or subtract from the initial position, I reach to the new position. So I know the starting point, I know the gradient, I know where I'm reaching. So those are the deterministic. We know everything. Everything is can be we can determine. In stochastic, we don't know. So here in this case also, in GA also, we don't know because randomly we start. And then the population children also are also generated randomly on the base of probability theory, crossover and mutation. So we don't know what is the children. So that is basically that's why they are mainly known as stochastic. So D is also a stochastic. It is a population based, same like GA we have population, here it is a population. Population means number of initial sets. Proposed in 1996 by Stone and Price, and very popular algorithm, very robust algorithm also. will initially develop for real parameters, real valued functions here. Well, why we use it? The problem is very simple. In many practical problems, our objective function is non-differentiable, non-continuous, non-linear, noisy, flat, multi-dimensional, and maybe multimodal also. So for such type of problems, this performs a good way. You can see the terms are almost same. Okay, initialize, mutation, recombination, selection, and go back. So there is a bit difference in the approach, and you can see here. Here also we do all those process mutation, crossovers, and all that, but the processing is a bit different. So you can see here, you can choose any target as a first step. Then you take random two members. Okay, you can take the random two numbers, build a weighted difference there. So we take two members, find out a difference, multiplied by a vector, and then add a third number to it, and then we this is the new person. We do the crossover with the targeted one, and then we check it whether this one is performing this solution better than this. We replace it. If it is not better, we keep the old one. The process is simple. Why this one is known as DE? Very simple. You can see here at this step we are taking the difference and we are multiplying a bit. So that's why it's known as differential, and is evolutionary because here at this step we are doing crossover. So that's why this one is known as differential evolutionary algorithm. Okay, so it's a combination of your genetic algorithm and difference of vectors there. Okay, so these are the some steps I already explained to you. So here the only difference is initialization is same as like genetic algorithm. The difference is the policy, and the policy is a bit different here. Then there is another algorithm which is simulated annealing. This one is basically inspired from cooling process in mechanical engineering or thermodynamics, you can say. So it was observed that okay, same glass material, but the way it is being cooled, it has a different property. Okay, so simulated is done from there. That is change in the energy of the system as it cools. So it is observed if it is fast cooled, it's more brittle. If it is slow cooled, it is something else. So it is inspired from there, and the algorithm is developed like this. Okay, so there is a metaphorically, it is basically dropping several bouncing balls. Each ball have bounces and lose some energy, and it settle down at some minimum, local minimum. And if a ball bounce for a long time and lose energy slowly, they may go to the global minimum. So it is the way how they lose the energy. So that kind of a thing is considered here. Some kind of results there. So with the temperature, you can see your bar is moving, and you can see the temperature is going down. So there is kind of a stability near the maximum. So very obvious, we also studied that in thermodynamics, if the temperature is more, you can find that your particles they move very at a high velocities, and their temperature keep on going down, so they settle at certain kind of solution. So this is the process there. So the flow chart is very simple here. You can see you initialize, fix the temperature, then you assume certain some kind of bouncing procedure. Uh, Here you need to adjust the solution. You use certain equations, evaluate it. If there is improvement, you accept it. If there is no improvement, then accept with certain kind of a probability, and you keep on doing in the loop. At the same time, you keep on reducing your temperature. You will find the things they settle at certain values. This algorithm has certain advantages, but because this follow a type of hill climbing search, so it is faster in that way a bit, because hill climbing is gradient method is the fastest one, and then it converts to optimal solution. So but there are as a disadvantage associated with it. in some problems, in some problems, it converges in infinite time. So that is a big issue. Okay, so because you have to reach, and to converge it you have to go cool down very slowly, and then that dominate its conversion characteristics. It's take a lot of time to set up. So that's a limitation of this particular algorithm. Then this one is another algorithm which is known as taboo search, and this one is basically memory based algorithm. So say you want to move from point to A to point some point, so you can have a listing basically. So you want to go to B, so you have one way is A to B. You can go by A to E and then to B, or you can go A to E, E to D, and D to B, or you can go A to E, E to D, and D to C, and C to B, or something like that. So these are the memories. So all possible combinations are stored, and then from there you can search out which one is better. So this one is the policy here. So they need a memory, they need a list, and uh, mm, based upon that listing, they try to find out the solution there. So this one is a pseudocode where we keep on updating our list, and from this try to find out the solutions there. There is another algorithm which is proposed in by Dorigo in 90s, and which is known as uh, your ant colony optimization. So for this one is good for like if you have some kind of combinational problems and all that there. So inspired from the ants. So uh, the policy had adopted is how ant to works in the nature. Okay, so I'll explain that, and then you can correlate that policy here. One experiment was being done. You can do it at your home also. Like ants are going like from nest to food, and you just place an obstacle there in front of them of a, and you can put it in that way that on one side it is more and on one side it is less. So initially you will find they distribute around that obstacle, and after a certain time you will find that all the ants they follow only one way, and interestingly that is the shortest one. And the third part is they don't have eyes. So how they do it? So basically then the research comes in that okay, when the ant moves they leave the drops of forminon in their path, and the second ant follow the strength of that forminon and then move further. And the forminon has a property that it evaporate with time. So what will happen that if the concentration is more, that means that path is smaller than the second one, because uh, second one is the bigger path. That means it take more time to reach, so that the forminon in that path is evaporated, and such type of kind of combinations are being observed. People have used in a very interesting way in routing problems, traffic management problems, uh, maybe traffic management in civil engineering, transportation, or electrical traffic, or it can be your communication traffic. So this one is a very interesting application of this particular algorithm. So you can see here the picture there. You can see the forminon level there, how they are moving. You can see later that okay, this path is shortest one. You can find more forminon here, whereas this one is having less forminon, and that's how they decide that if you want to move from this point to this point, so this is the best way to reach because this is the shortest. So it is used for shortest distance problems and all those issues there. Okay, so I'm not discussing the mathematics here, so I'm just skipping here. So and there certain variants also comes into the picture. A list comes by Dorigo, then rank based, then max min ant system, then ant colony system, then hypercube framework. So these are certain variants. Variants are there for all these algorithms. So what are the good points? Good point is and they have a rapid discovery of good solutions, so they are good. They are distributed because their nature is that way, and that avoids your premature convergence. Greediness, you can add it or you can remove it, but In many cases, it is observed that like convergence is slower as compared to other heuristic algorithms. Okay, and there's no centralized observer because each ant is searching and moving. So there's nothing like one kind of a unit where you can see that okay they are storing the good information there. So these are certain kind of a disadvantage also. You need to take care when you are solving any algorithm from this point of view. Particle swarm algorithm, one of the most popular algorithm, designed by two people, both are electrical engineers, and most analyzed algorithms also and simple algorithm. So here, understand the term swarm is a group of things. So here you can see a group of birds and group of fishes, that is known as swarm, and one any agent of it or any member of this group, that is known as particle. So how the things being done or how the birds and fishes and they do in a nature, that is copied or mimicked, and that is known as particle software. So it's a group behavior based algorithm, and the algorithm works only few things which are very interesting. These two equations are sufficient enough to explain the particle swarm optimization. Okay, so this is also true for us also, because when we do anything, when we search anything, or when we take any decision, it is always guided by two things there. Okay, uh, and those two things are my choices and my surrounding or society choices. Okay, so that thing is being added here. So you can see this equation c1 into rand into p best minus xk, this one is my personal choice. Okay, and the second one is my group choice, and this one is a constant, a factor there. So this is basically the velocity. This one you can see the term is being used here. V means I'm searching somewhere. Say I missed some coin in somewhere, so I'm searching it. So I'm at certain position, and the coin is global solution. So I'm at certain position, and then I want to move. So I must have certain velocity. Okay, so how my velocity is updated? That is updated by three factors. One is based upon my previous velocity. The second term is my personal choices. Third term is my global choice, my friend's choices. And I'll get a new velocity, and then velocity into time is the displacement. This one is a iterative process. The time is all t is always 1. So I add this v to my previous position. I'll go to the next position. Next position is next solution. Here the position is my solution. And then you can control your C1 and C2 to control your things there. Like if you want to listen more of yourself, you can make C1 high and you can make C2 low. If you want to give more preference to your society surroundings rather than your own choices, then you can make C2 high and C1 low, and that's how you can move from one point to another point. Or you can it's a very interesting algorithm which explain how you work or how you behave in a group uh, uh, for to find any particular solution. So this one is basically particle swarm optimization. So you can see here on your screen the initially all the particles they are randomly distributed. You can see here. So the distribution is random, and they have different directions to move. And then you can see here the maxima is the dark brown section. So with iterations, you can see they their orientation and then they start moving uh, towards each other. So this one at this stage you can see there are two groups. One is here, another one is here. So this one is a local minima, this one is global minima. But after you will find that as iterations increases, all will reach to the same point. So this is how this algorithm works, which is known as your particle sum optimization. There is another algorithm which is a photosynthesis algorithm, and we understand this algorithm long back. We studied in biology that how photosynthesis works there. So it takes some CO2 mixed with H2O, generates your some kind of oxygen, water, and and some kind of sugar combinations there. So then the this approach is adopted there because it depends on your light intensity, depends upon the your chloroplasts, and depends upon the temperature. So these are the factors which control this algorithm, because they decide that how much of oxygen will be generated. So the same kind of concept being used here. Okay, so there are two cycles here you can which are being used in nature. So here your light, random light means random solutions there, then you can have different concentrations, and then you have two things there, you Benson Kelvin cycle and photorespiration, and which give you the new solution where you can evaluate it. If it is a poor solution, then you can remove it. If it is a good solution, you update it and go back, and likewise. So things are interrelated, and this kind of policy is adopted, which is known as photosynthetic algorithm. This one is another algorithm which was proposed by Professor Geim, and it is inspired from how the music is composed. So I'm trying to touch different classes of these algorithms. Let me see. Okay, we have 28 minutes, so I'll discuss another 10-20 minutes on algorithms, and then I'll take your questions. So this one is another algorithm proposed by Professor Kim, and which is inspired from music. And the interesting aspect is here, and means like uh, we also listen music and observe few things interestingly, and if you incorporate those things in terms of some kind of mathematics, it results to some very good solution. So when you listen to music, many times it happens just by a single note you can recall what is this song. Okay, and sometimes it happened that the song came yesterday only, but you don't remember. So what is that? That means there is a harmony in that song. So the melodious songs we remember as on today also, which we have listened somewhere when we are kids still, but still we remember. If that song is playing somewhere, we start singing with the song. But and many times it happened that the song was there in the movie which you saw 2 hours back, but you still don't remember. So that's a harmony. And then the question is, harmony means the good solution. Then the question is, harmony is how the harmony is being developed, how it is prepared, how it is composed. So there are three ways people normally do. One is you can, like, they start with exactly the same tone, which is some famous tune which is there in their mind, and then they improvise that one. So sometimes you'll find that song and the tones are similar. Okay, so that is one way of doing that one. Sometimes they just simple adjust the pitches. So many of the songs you'll find that you can, I mean, you can say that they are being played in some other languages like Korean or Chinese, or and now they are popular in Hindi, Bollywood music and all that, because they are performing good melodious there. Now they are being changed here, so it's like that. And third one is you start with a totally new composition, so random notes, and then you play with the notes, and then finally you something suits you that okay, this one is good. And this is the only way we can do it. So these are the basically some parameters how you can play with the algorithm. So like here, it's a composition. Okay, so you can see that this one is taken from, I think, some other, it's a some, I forget the country name, I think Greek. This one is do mi sol, and then there are combination. These are the three instruments you can see here, and they are combined in three different ways, like do mi sol, or si sol re, or la fa do, so like saregama we have. Mathematically, what are these are the variables x1, x2, x3, and then their values are there, and then we substitute these value, and then we evaluate it. So which one is giving the best solution, that is the having good melody. So this one is harmony search algorithm as well. So the algorithm works like this: we initialize these things, some random compositions, and then some parameters, we fix it, we evaluate it, and then check it generate a new music by using three rules. Either we consider our old memory, or we adjust the pitch, or we do randomly. And out of these, then we check it which one is good, we store it. If it is bad, we throw it away. And if we store it, we update our memory. And this algorithm keep on working, which is known as harmony search algorithm. Okay, these are certain variants. So one of the variant we also developed in 12, because what is the issue, there are certain parameters, like here on also you can see here what is harmony, memory size, pitch adjustment rate, and pitch memory concentration rate. So what is the best value so that I'll get the best solution. So here we use an intelligent way to obtain these values according to the problem. Another algorithm consists of picture, which is basically mimicking of your artificial life. And we know we saw this picture when we are somewhere in class fourth. Like there is ecosystem, we have predators, prey, and then environment, and it's basically a nice game there. And you can see here it's basically a very good triangle. So the quantity at the bottom is more, and it keep on reducing as we move towards the top. Okay, so this is basically kind of, so your decision is there to get the optimal structure of it. What is there? uh, okay, let's move there only, stay here only. So we the game is there, it's balancing kind of structure basically. So they are randomly distributed, food is there, so food is our kind of a solutions. And the game is that uh, this they the middle part, they know where is the food. Okay, so they, to survive, they have to go there their food. And the, at the top, they know that if there is a food here, then there are chances of coming these middle uh, agents. And then he has to survive. So there is a very good kind of no kind of a observations. They observe each other to behave in a animal life kingdom, and that is basically mimicked here. So we can have predators or non-evolving species. They are able to observe the phenotype. Prey, they move around randomly in the environment, interact with each other, mate, selection, and reproduce. And the density dependent reproduction scheme can be observed there. And they need to make a balance in the life of forest life. So it is basically a reproduction, it's increasing the population, it's a random movement. And then and then there are uh, uh, like predators which they don't evolve. They observe the vectors, or and vectors means they observe this prey, and they go kill them to make the balance. So this is some kind of a very interesting architecture being developed, which is known as artificial life. Okay. There's another algorithm comes into the picture, which is known as firefly algorithm. We know, everybody of us know what is a firefly. So firefly basically, you know, they attract towards light. At the same time, we know that this insect also emit certain light. So initially they are random, but if there is a light, then insect goes near to it. It has its own light also. So then the light intensity at that point increases. That attracts more firefly there, and that attracts more. And finally, you'll say, see some at some point the number is very high, and that is the solution. So the light, sorry, the light is a solution here. So initial light, what is the light there? There are few lights in the system. Few lights means there are few solutions. Some light are brighter, some are not so. That means some is good solution, some is bad solution. And then these fireflies start moving, and very obviously they move towards a best solution. So they move towards the brighter solution, and then they reach there. And this is how this algorithm works. So this one is the flow chart. You can use it for your purpose. Okay, there are various variants which which are already told you that a lot of variants are already available. This one is another very interesting algorithm known as intelligent water droplets, and this one is based upon how the river formation takes place. Okay, so droplets are there, and then these droplets they combine to form a river. Okay, so I'll show from this picture. You can see here to get the good idea about the things. You can see that there you can see on your picture you can find that the droplets are moving. They have a high velocity, so you can see that when it is at higher velocity you will find that it will take more sand with it. If it has less velocity, then it will take less sand with it, and that's why you will find that uh, the water in hilly areas is not clean. It is dusty, whereas the water in the plain areas is very smooth. Uh, and The reason is very simple. That in hilly areas, your movement of your droplets is fast, so they take more sand with it. And in plain areas, the movement of the this one your soil this drops water movement is slow, so you'll find it is very plain. So that's the concept being used to develop very commonly used for again routing problems, and is like an alternate solution for your ant colony optimization. There is another algorithm which is known as fish. Let me see the time, one sec. Yeah, so there is another algorithm which is known as your fish schooling algorithm, inspired from that how the fishes they work in the nature. So how they are connected with each other, so it is almost same if you work on uh, it's like you can do the modifications if you watch it, the PSO algorithms and all. This one is a different algorithm, so I'll talk more on it. Just give me one sec. I'll make that. There was some issues here. I think now you can see me. Okay, let's go back. Okay, this one is proposed by Jinxi Yang, and it is basically based uh, upon the working of your bats. So they used sonar echoes. So they uh, radiate certain waveforms, and then they get it back, and then they observe the time delay. That time delay they use it for navigation purpose. So typically they emit a short, loud and sound impulses with the pulse rate of 10 to 20 times per second. And then after hitting it reflected back, and then bat transform their own pulse to useful information that how far is the food or prey. And in optimization, we are looking for a food means like mathematically you can say we are looking for the solutions, which solution is good one. Okay, so that is our food there. And they use this type of approach to get to the food. So initially randomly they start, and then they can have that particular vector that uh, pulse is generated, received back, and then food is observed. So you can see here the objective function is known to us. It's a d variable function. We initialize the population. We define the pulse range. That okay, what is the pulse frequency? We fix the pulse rate, and then we put a termination criteria, and then the function is there like randomly if the number is more than that rate, then it select the solution. If it is less than, then it will generate a new solution, and likewise. So that randomness is added here. You can see at number 8 and number 13. So randomness is added. Two types of randomness are there, and that help us to find out the global solution. And these are the few variants which are being developed with the years in 2011, and then again in 11, then 12, and then 13, and then the algorithms are being modified after every time. I'm skipping this one because we have something more of a different class. So I'll talk more on that, and then that will be the last algorithm I'll talk because there are lot and lot of algorithms I put it here. So I'm not. This one is the same chain work. I'll talk about two more. One is one of the most popular algorithm, which is proposed by Mergely. This one is basically how the gray wolf they work in the nature. So this one is known as GWO approach, GWO algorithm inspired from gray wolves. So wolves actually work in the form of packs. There is a category in wolves. Like in swarm, all are same. Okay, so all behave same. PSO. But here there is a hierarchy. So here alpha is the leader, and then beta and delta they assist the leader to make a decision, and then omega are the followers. Okay, so this is how they do in the nature. This is their social behavior. Okay, so you can see in the picture there that like alpha is the nearest to the prey, and then you have beta, delta, which are assisting that alpha, and rest are the omegas there. Okay, so these are the various process they do, but yeah, there are two equations. There are few equations. These are the various process they follow. First, they approach, so that decision is taken by alpha. They track and pursue. So this one is pursue. Basically, they isolate that particular animal from the rest of the group, and then they harass. Like here in this picture, all are on one side, and they open on once another side, and then they come to the second side again. They open it, and likewise, so that this big animal get tired, and then they uncircle it, and then they wait for it to completely get tired, and then they have food like this. So this kind of arrangement is there in practically in the walls, and the same being used here in this case by Mersley to develop a mathematical relation which is known as gray wolf optimization. The mathematics with an example, all these are available on my website, so you can take it from there also. So this one is the last to discuss, which we proposed long back. We a certain kind of a modification on bee colony optimization, which is known as directed bee colony optimization. So here you can see here that honeybees are there, and how honeybees work, because that is very interesting to understand. Uh, there's transmission things. So I'll stop the camera. So how the honeybees work? Basically, you can see these are the most intelligent species. Actually, 1/10 of the bees, they are known as scouts. They go for the search for the next site. They search it. They come and perform a dance known as waggle dance, and then the rest of the bees take a decision because that which one is best. So initially, some bees go randomly, and then they see the food, and they come back, and then they tell the quality of the food. And then the rest of bees take a decision which one is good. So they take a decision on the basis of two things. One is consensus way, another one is quorum way, and based upon that they move from one place to another. So this is how they move in. So how they perform waggle dance? It's very simple. Like in this picture, you can see they move from one point, and there is a food that is flowers there. So they observe at that and in that instant what is the angle made of the floor with the sun, and then they come back. They make a dance, and when they perform any dance there, you can they form a figure of 8, and then the axis of 8 with respect to sun gives the direction what is the angle of that position from the nest. So you can see there are two pictures. The in first picture the 8 is in aligned with sun, so it's a 0 degree, and in second picture you can see the dance is the axis of 8 is at the 30 degrees. So that's give a direction that okay what is the direction of that particular food from with respect to sun. Then the next information to be shared is how far it is, and so that is basically given that when they form the 8, how many 8 they have formed while dancing. So how many 8 they have created, based upon that information is taken. Okay, so that is basically how they observed that particular, and they reach to that particular food there. So this is how these bees pass the information. So the algorithm works is very simple. So this and what is new here? because this algorithm is what we have discussed, that is same in the bee colony optimization, or ABC, artificial bee colony. So the some few changes have been made here. One is on the how they search the things. So few research are already there in biology that okay, they can remember four positions and all that. So what we want to do in this algorithm, can we make the combination of the algorithm, like can we combine our deterministic and heuristic so that we can have a faster solution. So here the search method is being adopted here, which is you can see on your screen, like we search here Z3, Z1 and Z2, and then if it find that okay, Z1, 2, 1 and 2 are better than Z3, so what it will take, it take a half point of it and take a projection here, ZT, and it goes there, search it there. If Z is better, then it's okay. If it is not better, then it comes back half of the distance. Likewise, so this process is being adopted, which is a mathematically proposed long back in 1942 by NM method, Nadler's maiden method, which is being used here to search the things. So the operation is very simple. That okay, we take a search space, we divide the search spaces in equi distances, put bees in each of these search spaces, and then we use this approach to find the solution. And then we take a decision on the basis of the quorum or consensus, which is already there in the bees, which help us in finding the best solution. So since time is a constant, a lot of other algorithms are also there. So I stop it here. I'm open for the questions because I have another 30 slides more there, which I need much more time there. So thank you. On the presentation side, I'm open for the questions if you have any.
Uh, Thank you very much, sir, for such an informative lecture. It was very well presented, and sir, I think most of the participants would have got some knowledge about optimization and how it can be used in power system for solving various problems. So, any participant, if he or she would like to ask some query to sir, can ask.
Yeah, you are most welcome.
And
You have any queries? Let me know.
you can chat that. Or if you want, you can put it in the chat, and we can then read it out to sir. Or
Yeah.
you
So
can give. Sir also has posted his email ID in the chat, and his WordPress link. So if you want, you can contact sir through email also.
yeah,
Uh,
on my website, you go to the download section and you will find all these algorithms with examples also. So that will help you more understanding the things. And still, if you have any query, you can mail me.
So I think, sir, no, but there's no query actually. So thank you very much, sir. I think we can wind up the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you on behalf of REC Ambedkar Nagar for being part of this FDP. Uh, Thank you, sir.
This conference will now be
Hello.
recorded.
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Hello, am I audible? Please confirm.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, sir.
If I am audible, please note this
Yes, sir. Yes,
link
sir.
here. You
Audible.
go there, you'll find a lot of PPTs with on these algorithms with mathematical explanations are there. Lot of codes are also there, and some other algorithms are also there, which will help you a lot in understanding the things.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. We can now finish the
Is it okay?
session, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir, to you?
Dr. Sanjay.
Yeah, sir. Can you hear us? Yes, sir. You can hear me?
Okay, then yeah, thanks to everyone for listening me, and I think we are not able to connect with the host, so maybe we can close it now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can
Thank you,
close
sir.
it. Maybe it's.
Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.